Have you shared yet on Facebook?
It's about to be live now. In fact, it is live now. So I'm gonna go find it, and then I'm gonna tag you in a comment so you can share it from there. Yeah, assuming Facebook lets me. Facebook's been acting all kinds of weird in 2021. And so welcome anybody that happens to be tuning in right away to the first MUSiPOLiTiX special event of 2021, the first MUSiPOLiTiX anything of 2021. And we will start the official discussion at about 7:05, give everybody a chance to get here. And yeah, it's being, well, no, there we go. Let me tag you, Michael. Hold on.
Okay.
It let me tag your main account. It didn't let me tag the other one. So once you share it from your main account, you'll have to find it. Now I found Michael Malcolm. Good thing about Marnese is that there aren't a lot of Marneses, so that makes it easier.
You know what? I need to be the only one because I'm a different character. So
so what I did is I tagged everybody in a comment on the video. So go to follow that tag. Yes.
Okay.
There we go.
Someone's got the window open.
That was me. Okay. How do I? Oh, there I go. Share.
Okay. Let's see if anybody's. Let me go back to this main screen so I can see if anybody's with us yet. Oh, we got Brandy here already. Steven here already. Diane's here already. We got some people here. We got
I think I shared it. Okay. Oh my goodness. I think I just got nervous.
You got nervous?
Why are you nervous, Miss Marnese?
Marnese got nervous?
I'll be fine. I have Brother Michael here.
Marnese, don't you have your own show?
It's different when you're in the facilitator role, okay? When you're getting interviewed, it's totally different. I promise.
Don't think of it like an interview. We're having a chat about stuff we're all interested in.
Yeah, it's not an interview. It's not an interview.
It's not an interview.
No.
It's not an interview.
It's not an interview. I love it.
So I have, let's see, what other sharing do I have to do? Because I want to make sure all my people see it too. Share to story.
Oh, nice.
Okay, reload this page one more again. Do we have it?
So usually while we're doing the sharing, we do like an icebreaker question that we can kind of half answer while we're all trying to look at our screens and figure out if we know how to use social media. I guess my icebreaker question is, so far, what has been your favorite thing about 2021?
Sorry, that was me again.
Oh, then I'm alive. I have to be honest about that one. That my kids have adapted to this. Nothing is normal, but this new way of living. And they have really handled it with grace, you know? So 2021 has really showed me that I'm resilient, my kids resilient. But to just, I don't know, I'm proud of a lot of stuff. I'm just happy to be alive. Ooh, after recovering from the virus, I promise I was thinking Lord, thank you. I'm still here.
You got the Rona too?
I had the Rona.
How sick were you? Were you in the hospital?
No. Thank goodness. Thank God. I was just very fatigued and of course the normal symptoms. But it wasn't I made it. Yeah. I have a greater respect for taste and smell.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow.
Reverend Michael, did you get the Rona too?
No, I've thank God I've not gotten it.
So I guess there's something about being named Michael that protects you, because the Michaels have not had it. So that might be a trick.
Hey, look, Michael. If that's what it is, I'll take it. I'm not gonna turn it down.
Me too.
If Michael keep us safe, then hey, I'm Michael.
Whatever it takes. Y'all need to change y'all's names, amen.
Right. Man, see, this I got a story behind the name Michael.
Oh boy. Well, your name starts with an M. That's close. You got an M.
Marnese.
You know what? Most times when I meet folks, it's usually somebody that's gonna say that. I got a story behind the Michael, and some of them know me.
Oh Lord.
Not you, Michael.
Are you going to tell the story or?
No, can't do it. Can't do it.
I was going to say this is a pretty Michael heavy chat, so you know.
Yeah, we won't do that.
Outnumbered.
We'll moderate. It's all right. We don't have to go all the way there.
Okay. Has everybody done all of the sharing? Has everybody shared it to their platforms?
Oh yeah.
I just have to. I got to share it to my other page right quick. I don't know why things keep getting so difficult. Or they don't. I get more difficult.
I think it's both, honestly. But we will.
Like I still haven't figured out.
We'll wait for you.
I don't know why I can't get it like it should be. I should be able to share it with my other page by friendship. I mean, my pages are linked. They should be.
Let me just see.
Okay. I'm just looking in the wrong place again. My goodness. Okay, give me 1 second.
Okay. Well, while he's doing that, anybody else want to answer my question as far as what's been the bright spot of 2021 for them?
You know what? I have to be honest, man, and it's not just me being, superficial or looking for likes even. But I'm glad that I don't have to listen at somebody who can't put two sentences together, two complete sentences together, that call themselves our leader of our free world. I'm glad I don't have to sit back and decipher if it's a lie or if it's the truth,
man.
And I'm gonna go one step further. I'm glad we losing some of these bigots and white supremacists and racists around here. And some of the folks that have left away from here, all I could do was just say,
I can definitely get with you on that. I can watch the news now without having an anxiety attack. And that I didn't realize how big of a deal that was. That like I used to just like I could read the news, but if I watched it had to be in small doses. And now I've got NPC on mute even in the background right now, and it's not triggering anything for me because it's just. And especially, I don't know if you watch if anybody else besides me watches the daily press conferences from the White House. It's such a difference.
Here's the big difference. We actually have them regularly now.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They went away for a long time. We weren't hearing anything, and the only thing we heard was lies and innuendos.
I agree.
Yeah. So just the simple fact that we have access to information has made it a whole lot better,
I'd agree. Definitely. It was almost like the differential when Obama took over after George Bush. It was like, whoa, somebody's speaking complete sentences. Somebody's articulate.
Yes.
And you have an adult in the White House. My goodness.
Well,
fool me what?
What is
it? Fool me what? Shame on you. Fool me. You won't fool me again.
Don't get fooled again. I tell you what, though, when he dodged that shoe, when that
man, he was quick, wasn't
he was here, man. I'm like, oh, GW has had stuff thrown at him before. Yes, he took a little martial arts class or something. Took a little Taibo or something like that. What?
Okay, so I took the thing down. We're officially on the show now.
Okay,
and I will first of all start the show by introducing my co-host, who currently resides below me, ranked best drummer on the planet by Modern Drum Magazine,
Lord
and anybody else who knows anything about music. One of the smartest and most uniquely opinionated people I know. One of my favorite people to discuss anything with. And I'll tell you something. I definitely have missed chatting with you since the show's been off the air and we've been busy with other things. My co-host right below me, Mr. Michael Bland.
And above me, he hails from Madison, Wisconsin.
That I do.
What do we used to call it? Not cesspool of the nation. Home of violence. Voter subjugation.
We were just talking about that before we got started about voter suppression. Go ahead. Sorry.
But you can chunk and pick and chord with the best of them. My friend, my colleague, Mr. Dan Spiffy Newman. Good to see you, man.
Thank you, sir. So a couple of what do they call it? Not house rules. What's the term for it? Like points of order or something like that before we introduce the guests.
What, the agenda?
Something like that. I'll pretend to be formal. So two things. First thing is, if you read the promos, you know this is a unique episode. This is intended as a tribute to my father, who passed this summer. He was a career environmentalist, and he, we learned how bad global warming was at the dinner table at like age 4. So, sure. And then his other related cause was racial justice. So we learned about slavery reparations at the dinner table at age 6. And I wanted to do something for him, especially because we couldn't have a service for him this summer with the pandemic. And I wasn't really sure how to approach it. And what eventually came to me with Michael's help was to just simply talk to people that care about some of the same things that he does, or he did rather, and allow our platform to showcase environmentalists, and in particular Black environmentalists. So in that regard, this is a tribute to him. We probably won't, I may talk about him a little bit if we talk about environmental issues, just because that's where I learned that from. But otherwise, this isn't about him. It's just in honor of his memory. But I do want to ask anybody who saw my promos, do you recognize the screenshot that I used for the promos, and do you know where that's from and why I used it? So if you do, by the way, my dad was another Michael, so this is definitely a Michael show. That's in the comments, or rather, if you know why I use that, put it in the comments, and I'll throw those up there on the screen. And if not, I'll mention it later. Other thing to talk about is right now in Mr. Bland's hometown of Minneapolis, and one of my adopted homes. Right now, the Derek Chauvin trial is going on, which fits indirectly in with our topic. And
it sure does.
And Mr. Bland put together a group of local musicians from Minneapolis to. Well, what you talk about it, Michael, and I'll throw the video up.
Yeah, I better clean it up.
Okay, yeah, clean it up.
A friend of mine, young Ryan Listman, used to play keyboards with the Jonas Brothers. Been a long time sideman and frontman in the Minneapolis music scene. he went down to ground zero, basically where the riots had happened, like the second or third night. He went down there the next morning and saw everybody in the street, cleaning up together, and got inspired to write a song, and got in touch with me and said, I really want to say something on this. And the conversation led to, well, what if this guy gets off? I mean, even at that time, it's like nobody. What are they going to do about Breonna Taylor? What are they going to do about Ahmaud Arbery? We saw what happened to Philando. It's like, when are we going to see justice? And so we just dialogued for a while. It's like, you know what? Kind of no matter what happens to Officer Derek Chauvin, the fight still ain't going to be over.
Right.
We need for people to not put the proper amount of significance on it, but we know the system has a good chance of failing us, but we can't allow that to be, the overall influence on what we decide to do or how we decide to handle this. I feel now, I didn't feel then, but I feel now that this is change has never been more palpable in my lifetime than right now, because how we suffer has been put directly in front of everyone's eyes. They can see it, which means they can't, you can't lie about it, because you saw it yourself, So it's I feel like because of that, I've had a lot of white people who are strangers inboxing me on Facebook going, we've seen your show, I'd like to know how I can be an ally. What can I do to help? And so I've had the welcome responsibility of guiding some of these people towards certain literature. I always recommend go look at some of James Baldwin's speeches.
I was about to say Baldwin. I know,
definitely James Baldwin, even Muhammad Ali. But and also I stumbled across her name is Robin DiAngelo. She's an author. She wrote a book called White Fragility, and I saw her talking about it on YouTube, and I was like, wow, I see. This is how white people got to talk to other white people to understand what's really going on, And so I recommended that to several people, and became kind of an advocate and consultant even. Like, it really expanded my my role in as a not an well, I guess, what do you even call it?
A leader.
I guess a leader. Social issues has never been really something I've been on the forefront of, but as a Black person in America, you always have to be aware, and at the very least do what you can to push things further along. So I'm glad my civic responsibility has become a more of a part of the center of my concerns, And I just turned 52 on Sunday, so it's I'm statesman age anyway, so I'm supposed to be helping people as they come up, as they make themselves visible to me, and a social liaison. Thank you, Z. Yes, so I've been happy to impart some sound counsel and direct people who seem to feel lost and want to do something about it. But anyway, long story, just a little longer. Ryan and I wrote this song. It's called Enough, and we asked some of our friends from the reggae community to join us. And the song, we got about 15,000 views right now on YouTube, and we're still promoting because we decided specifically to drop it around the Derek Chauvin trial because we're talking literally about it. The chorus says, "Free or guilty, it's going to get filthy. Better believe, roll up your sleeves. It's going to be tough. It's going to get rough. We all believe we've had enough. We all agree we've had enough." So, really, we're just trying to advocate people to look beyond this, try to see the big picture, because, we haven't seen justice. We haven't seen justice for us. So, I mean, yeah, I'd like to believe that he'll get, proper, what do they call it? Proper punishment. But I mean, I wouldn't bet on it. but I will bet on people staying involved and mobilized and interested in the pursuit of justice and equitable treatment for all. I mean, we've lived long enough to see it. You know, we should have seen it already. So, anyway, I mean, what do you got, Dan? You got the video. I
got the video. We're gonna play the video.
All right,
and then we'll introduce our guests.
Sure.
So this will be like our title sequence for today's show.
All right.
Let me figure out how to put it up there.
And Ryan and his friend Luis shot the thing and edited it themselves. And as soon as you get it rolling, then we can just stop talking about it and experience it. All right.
Oh, Queen Justice, where are you? Did they beat you up or no? Lock you underground? Take the crown away from you?
Oh, Lady Liberty, red, white, and blue. Did they take your dignity with their bigotry? Teach you that you're born to lose.
Free or guilty, it's gonna get filthy. Better believe, roll up your sleeves. It's gonna get rough, it's gonna be tough. We all agree, we've had enough. We've had enough of all the rules you break. We've had enough of all the money you make. We've had enough, no more life gets taken. We've had enough, this is a proclamation. It's been 400 years and we're 400 late. Together we stand from state to state. Going back in time won't make America great. We need justice now, people won't wait. Action, no more distraction. Every step we take, we gain traction. If it can happen to one, it can happen to all. United we stand, divided we fall. Free or guilty, it's gonna get filthy. Better believe, roll up your sleeves. It's gonna get rough, it's gonna be tough. We all agree, we've had enough. We've had enough of all the rules you were breaking. We had enough of all the money you were making. We had enough, no more life gets taken. We had enough, this is a proclamation. Free or guilty, it's gonna get filthy. You better believe, just roll up your sleeves. It's gonna get rough, it's gonna be tough. We all agree, we've had enough. We've had enough of all the rules you're breaking. We've had enough, all the money you're making. We've had enough, no more life gets taken. We've had enough, this is the proclamation. We've had enough. Trayvon Martin and Tommy Rice. We've had enough. Michael Brown and Eric gonna pay the price. We've had enough. Philando, Breonna, George Floyd. What? We've had enough. So many gone. How can we fill the void?
How can we feel?
We've had enough. John Crawford, I know you've heard. We've had enough. Sandra Bland, come on and take a stand. We've had enough. Sean Bell, what the hell? We've had enough. Freddie Gray, did you hear what I said? We've had enough. This is a proclamation.
I can't hear you, Dan. Can you hear me?
I unmuted everybody but myself. Apparently, So I was saying that was the best. That was the best opening we've ever had.
All right. Yes. Well, I'm glad I had something to do with it.
So, you guys, if everybody wants to follow that song, I put the YouTube link in the comments, and Is it also available on Spotify and all those type of things?
Yes, it is. It's called Enough. It's by Ryan, Rion, and we had all of our friends in there singing along with us. And yeah, it's we're gaining some traction. We had a piece in the Star Tribune here last week, thanks to Chris Riemenschneider, and also we've been doing a lot of community supported radio. In Minnesota, we got KFAI is the station for the people. It's the people fund it, and they talk about social change constantly on that station. And we got a few more things this week that but we really just trying to promote it it's not an ego driven thing. It's really trying to get people.
I love that there's so many people that I recognized from the Minneapolis music community all in one thing together. That was that had a strong symbolic, people that might otherwise be competing in music were working together.
You know how it is, man. It's hard to get people to work together. Especially when it's a matter of, who's going to take credit, who is it that said you can accomplish anything in the world as long as you don't concern yourself with who gets the credit for it. And all too often people are worried about, how it's going to look, what it's going to do for them. And all these artists, they didn't hesitate. They immediately said yes. So that's saying something. Also, reggae music is message music, so all you really had to find is people like-minded, who are on board with the idea,
Okay, I don't know how to transition from that to our guests, but and I don't want to read everybody's bios because we've already had a much longer opening than we would normally have. So instead, I'll just say these are well, first of all, Reverend Michael Malcolm was the first person I contacted and the person who suggested doing this as a panel and doing it as multiple parts. Rather, it was going to be like our shows were in the past with one guest per week. And so he's kind of the heart behind this particular special. And he's somebody that I connected with on multiple levels because not only is he involved in politics, in the environment and racial justice, he's also a preacher. Do you have your own church? Do you pastor?
Not anymore. I just stopped last April.
Oh, you retired?
No, I didn't. Yeah, I'm a little young to retire. No, don't let the gray hairs fool you.
Oh, I got a couple myself, bro. Yeah.
No, I resigned to pursue the work that I'm doing now in the environmental space full time. That's all.
I see. Right.
Yeah.
So we'll let that be the brief bio, and then multiple people referred Marnese to me, including Michael, but also somebody, I think actually Maya sent Marnese to me. So I connected with her through multiple different people, which makes it very fitting that these are the two people that we're starting with. Rather than say anything else, I will just simply start by asking both of you, how did you first get interested in the environment?
I'll let Marnese go first because no, you know what, Marnese, I'll go first. I'll go first because I remember you told me you were a little nervous, so I'll take this bullet, and then I expect for you to grab one for me too. Now
I got you. I got you.
No, for me, it really. I grew up in Atlanta, in East Atlanta, and so I experienced environmental injustice firsthand growing up. I didn't grow up upper class nor upper middle class even. My family was a working class family, and we lived maybe 10 miles or so from a waste dump facility, so a waste field rather. And so we know, what that looks like. We experienced the growth of Atlanta and all that came with it. And all that came with it drowned out the voices of the people that suffer in Atlanta. And so we experienced that as well. So I have firsthand experience. Now, I can't say that I could name that as I was growing up. It wasn't until maybe 5 or so years ago, I was sitting in a conference and I was listening to that Reverend Dr. Gerald Durley, who's one of my main mentors in my life now. But at the time, I didn't know him. And he made the statement. He said, how can I preach to them in the pulpit, shout them in my pews, but they can't breathe out in public? And that right there just quickened me. It woke something up inside of me that caused me to look outside of the sanctuary that I was worshiping and pastoring in, and really look around the surrounding community that surrounded the congregation that I pastored. And when I did, I was able to see the degradation. I was able to see the environmental injustice, the poverty. I was able to see the racism and the likes that we have to experience in this life, or in this life that of oppression in our skin that we're in, I guess, would be my best way of putting it. And because I know that now, I have to do something about it. And the reality is, this became ministry for me, and it grew to the point, and the call grew to the point where I left traditional pastoral ministry to do advocacy ministry, basically.
Can I ask a question?
You can ask as many questions as you want. This is your time, boss.
I need, well, this is our time. Can you clarify, like, how environmental issues affect people of color differently? Like, can you be more specific about, like, what happens to us? I mean, I was saying to somebody else earlier, I was on the phone, that I've always understood that, you know, when white people get a head cold, Black people catch pneumonia.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering, in this particular context, what's the dynamic? Like, what happens to us that doesn't happen to them?
Well, now let me say that I'm junior on this panel, and Marnese is much more senior than I am, and so I definitely want to make sure that she speaks to this, and in particular because I think that this actually speaks to where we are with COVID, and helping us to understand COVID and its effects. And I think Marnese and her work can clearly speak to that. And I dare not drown out her voice. So if you don't mind, Dr. Bland, I'm gonna step back and let her introduce herself and answer that question.
Absolutely.
And then I can come back and I can piggyback if that's okay.
Absolutely. We all want to hear what Marnese has to say.
Yeah, Marnese is the expert, and I'm her. And listen, I'm just holding her books right now. You hear me?
Amen. Hey, preach it.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Dan and Michael, and thanks so much, Michael, for that. So for me, environmental justice, I'm a very family-oriented person, but my first experience with environmental justice happened at Hurricane Katrina, 2005. I have family. I live in Michigan, by the way. I have family that's in New Orleans and Gulfport, Mississippi, and Hattiesburg, Mississippi. I was actually born in Mississippi, and so when Hurricane Katrina happened, my people had to migrate up because it devastated their homes. And so for me, that wasn't, at that moment, I didn't understand what environmental justice was. I was actually studying African American studies and public relations at Eastern Michigan University. But to me, that was a racial issue because, you know, the president at that time wasn't showing up. FEMA wasn't doing what they were supposed to do to show up for Black people. So with me, I spearheaded a fundraiser just to, you know, do my job as an activist on campus to send down there to my people, not knowing that this was an EJ issue. I didn't have an interest in it, right? Because I always thought it was like a white people thing, right? That's what white people do. They tree huggers, they out here recycling, reusing, and all that type of stuff. Nothing that had a name to it, but I was already doing it, right? So fast forward, I had some kids. And that's when things hit the fan for me. Not equating environmental justice to energy or utility justice. The people who are powering our energy, our lights, our heat are the same perpetrators who are causing climate change and these environmental impacts in our cities. So these polluting facilities can be in a community of color. And so I'm from Michigan. And so my first glimpse of polluting facilities is in the polluted zip code in Michigan is 4217. My dad's whole family, actually it's the polluted zip code, I believe, in the United States. But, you know, Californians will probably argue us down. But my grandparents, my grandmother, and my dad, and my whole family is raised in Southwest Detroit. Okay. And that's filled with a whole bunch of industry polluting facilities, and you can actually smell it riding down 75. And at that time growing up, I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, we in Southwest, it stank, right? But it hit the fan for me with the indoor air quality or outdoor air quality when the city I live in, Pontiac, Michigan, the same type of smell that I identify was in my city. The same smell is still there on Dr. Martin Luther King Drive here in Pontiac, Michigan. Yes, I'm putting this on blast because it's still there after 10 years, right? Yeah. Your air should not smell like that. And me and my family lived right behind this sewage water treatment facility. And so there was a correlation, in my opinion, between both of my kids developing asthma and that smell around the same time. And so my daughter, she kept coughing at all hours of the night. Eventually, she developed bronchitis, and now she has asthma. She has an inhaler, and so does my son. Okay. So for me, not recognizing that was an EJ issue until I got more involved, like with the movement here in Michigan. Hey, you may have an indoor air quality issue and you have an outdoor air quality because of where you live. And so what this looks like for me is more so the indoor air quality issue, because it's where you live and where you breathe, you may be exposed to toxins. And so for me, I have had always have gas stoves. Gas stoves produce methane gas, which is the contributor to climate change and all these environmental issues. Now, I may not be exposed directly to it because the pipeline or polluting facility is not 30 miles radius of where I live, because that's a fact that polluting facilities like power plants are 30 miles from a Black or brown community. So they deliberately put these polluting facilities in Black and brown communities. So for me, a white thing versus Black thing, it's like, it's a deliberate act. They put it in low income Black and brown communities. Mm-hmm. And so when we're thinking about environmentalism, I'm thinking about your dad. I'm thinking about white people hugging trees, recycling. Us, we're thinking about the health impacts, because environmental issues are health impacts. And you spoke of COVID, for example. COVID is an upper respiratory illness. And so if you're living next door to a coal-fired power plant or a dirty gas pipeline, your COVID symptoms are going to get exacerbated. Or if you have asthma, for example, you walk outside, you get exposed to COVID, and you already have asthma, you're not going to be able to breathe anyway. Mm. So for me, all this is very alarming and intersectional, because one issue does not just impact our people. You got the environmental issue, then you have this big pandemic, then you have the cost, right? Because some people may not have access to healthcare, quality healthcare. For me, and I'm privileged, I'm at a privileged point in my life, but say if I wasn't, I may not be able to afford a $40 copay. And by the way, I have been there. So say imagine I got COVID during the time when my daughter first had asthma. I was low income, and then the pandemic hit. Then I had to get an inhaler that cost me $40 because I'm in that low to moderate income range. Mm-hmm. You see the wraparound? Yes. Again, for example, say if she's in school, she missed all these days of school. And if I'm a single mom and she's getting out of school every other day, they coming for me. Right. So I'll stop there.
No, you had me. You can keep going. Oh. Tell it.
but Marnese, I think that you picked up on something that I'd like to bring out even further.
Mhm.
Not just is COVID an issue because people are outside their homes and polluting communities, or EJ communities is what we would call them, but even inside their home.
Yep.
Because of lack of insulation, lack of sealing of their homes, because they sit in dilapidated homes, because they are already in polluted areas, they don't have the access to funding and resources for upkeep, because they've considered their land as unwanted and unused land, which is only a legacy of redlining. But
Yep.
all of this being said, you have people that are sitting in these dilapidated homes who don't have proper sealing in their homes. And right now, with people being on lockdown, and what concerns me more so than anything are the kids that are on lockdown and sitting in these houses that aren't sealed properly in these polluted communities.
Yeah.
They're locked in with this pollution and can't get out of it. So just imagine how now COVID is just running rampant through communities of color because of the conditions that we live in, which aren't our fault.
Yes. You
Right.
hit the nail on the head. Definitely.
And then you think about COVID, living in and I can only speak for my situation, but I know this is also other people's situations. When I think about indoor air quality, and I'm in the decarbonization field where we focus on reducing indoor toxins, indoor air pollution, because we spend majority of our time in the house. And so for me, when the pandemic first hit, I didn't think about going to get the necessities. I mean, I did get the food and stuff like that, but I was thinking about, oh my gosh, I need to stack up on an inhaler. I need to stack up on the albuterol for Dawson's, my son, breathing machine. I need to make sure that I have those humidifiers, because at the time I didn't, and I don't have air conditioning in my home. And by the way, like I said, I have a gas stove. So, I have to watch how much I cook. I found myself eating out more versus cooking because I knew the kids were going to be home with me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to eat out again, because if I cook and I know I smell that gas stove, not to mention that the gas bill went up.
Oh, right.
So I when I think about environmental justice, this is very intersectional, that it hits us at every piece, and it all comes back down to economics.
Yeah. Follow the money.
Wow.
Follow the money.
I get it now. I think that, I mean, I guess I needed it spelled out to me. I needed it obvious like this. But thank you. That's you connected all the dots for me. Now I understand. It's always back to the conditions you have to live by. It all boils down to that.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You're the guest. Come on.
And at the end of the day, that is the bottom line. That is what we're fighting for. We're fighting for everybody to be able to live equitably. Everybody, not both equitably and equally. But you've got to do the equitable before you can do the equal.
Absolutely. I hear that. Yeah. And I guess that is one way in which you can legislate change. Like that is legislative. We always talk about how you can't legislate concern or love, but you can legislate like rules and regulations.
Well,
and conditions.
Yeah, Michael, Dr. King said it something like this, and I always get the quote messed up, so I never try to do it exactly. I just paraphrase it and put it in, in my old Southern language.
That's all right.
He said it something like this. He said, I can't get you. I might not be able to get them to make you love me, but they can pass laws that'll keep them from lynching me.
Right.
And I think that's the greater part. And that's exactly when for me, at the end of the day, the reason why I go as hard as I do on the policy side is because I understand that's where lasting change takes place. And we can't ignore that. I can preach till heaven come down. However, if you don't want to change, I can't make you change.
Yeah.
But they can have laws in place that'll keep me protected.
Yes, they can legislate punitive action. Absolutely.
That's what we're missing.
Yeah, equal protection.
That's it. That's it. And for me, something else you alluded to, it has to start from a place of equity. That's where you've got to start from. People, what kind of system? Because I tell anybody, I really don't think that we can change this capitalist system and make it equitable. It wasn't built. It wasn't designed to be that way. I don't think you can change it and make it that way. I think the only thing you can do is replace it.
Yes.
And I'm always asked, what do you replace this system with? A system of healing.
Yeah.
A system of healing. Start there.
Yes. Start
to heal the hurt, and then allow for it. We've got terrible, extremely, matter of fact, an existential crisis on our hands with climate.
Well,
existential, meaning that this thing can take all of us out. So we've got an existential crisis on our hand with climate. But you know where it's coming from? It's being driven mainly by pollution.
Yeah.
You know what my community suffer from? They suffer mainly from pollution.
Yes, sir.
More children die from asthma than a bullet. More black children die from asthma. More black children are born with health defects. More black children are born prematurely. And some aren't born at all because of pollution. Now, if you would just help our folk, you can heal the planet.
Sure.
It's the same thing.
Yes.
The problem is we don't see one another. And so folks like me and in my communities, we suffer in silence. And can I use some of my colorful language?
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely. You can say
okay, I just wanted to make sure.
We cuss on this show.
And I'll be damned if they ain't going even further right now in trying to pass laws that keep us from using our voice through our vote.
Oh yeah, the voter suppression is out of control. And more so, it's an admission that they can't win without cheating. You know, that's how I look at it. If you got to cheat, and if you're going to be so shameless as to show us what you're doing, you can't. You don't deserve to win because you got to cheat to win.
But it also says how they view us.
Yeah,
and especially how they view their counterparts in politics. It really tells a whole lot about how we're viewed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to say something about the whole capitalism. The environment. So the U.S. was built off of capitalism, you know, by way of the enslavement of Black people. And they, of course, they took, you know, the indigenous brothers and sisters, you know, land. And I'm not going to get into who identify as this or who identify as that. Okay. I want to say that for us to move in this movement, we can't continue to operate under the same system of capitalism. Now, I don't have the answer. I'm not saying socialism is the answer, even though based on some of my research, I do feel like before we were stolen and, you know, brought over here, we kind of operated in a socialism type of setting. But I don't have the answer to what's a new system. But I do agree with Brother Michael that it definitely has to be not capitalism. We can't continue to create we have to have a system that involves everybody on the local level. And this is another reason why voting is very important. And that, of course, I feel that we should have really had a strategic, you know, platform on different entities that we work in on how we're going to engage, because we know the white-black backlash is here, right? As soon as Biden won, we knew that they were going, well, I knew it. If you didn't know.
You ain't that looking.
Oh Lord. I mean, and I'm not that, you know, I'm not that old. So it's kind of like, you know, that this is going to happen. So we have to be prepared. We can't wait to 2024 to show up. They're doing a drug thing. And so I think as people, Black people specifically, brown, indigenous people, we have to just really come together. This is not the time. We don't have time for the infighting, the intra-fighting within, you know, each other's cultures. Nobody has time for that anymore. And I believe this past election, I don't like the word woke, but if you're not woke now, you should be.
You need a new alarm clock.
I mean, my 8-year-old, 8 and 12-year-old, they woke. Like,
2 years old and woke.
Like you better go vote. I mean, that's the least thing that you can do, but also engage in the process, because I want to bring up Flint, for example, because someone actually mentioned about water quality, and on a local level, you decide who's going to get elected. So these different, this is the civic engagement hat coming on. You have the power to get involved with these different water commissions, these different boards. You don't have to have a degree. You just have to show up, be consistent. You know the issues because you've been impacted by the issues. So showing up to be a part of your water board, you need water to survive. Right? You need water to cook, clean. Flint is an example of why the environmental justice movement is important.
Absolutely.
Okay. Water, the Flint water crisis caused a lot of issues, especially with people who were exposed to lead poisoning. Now their children may or may not have behavioral issues. And we know that's the gateway to the prison to school pipeline. Okay. Absolutely. And so this is what I say, everyone in their power need to understand that this is not just a white people movement. This impacts all of us. Okay. Low income, Black, brown, indigenous, age, it doesn't matter. Everybody needs to be involved in this movement, because say if we come to the point where, for example, the revolution decides to happen, how you gonna grow your food, right? Like you gonna need to know how to do like the basic stuff, okay? And like grow your food. Those old school practices where, you know, Black and brown people we have done and got used to doing, and they need us to do, by the way. So I'm saying this because this is a point where the intergovernor panel on climate has said that we had so many years, and I believe it's actually like
it was 8. It was 12. It's 8 now.
It's 8 now. 8 years.
And really, they were being conservative. Yes,
right, to act on climate. Otherwise, we're going to continue to see these different issues with the grid, like it happened in Texas. You're going to see hurricanes happening. You're going to see different weather patterns. This stuff is real. And I'm sorry, this is not a white thing. Okay. So this is an everybody thing.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I often say the wind blows and the water flows. You can plant pollution, but you can't contain it.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can plant it, but you can't contain it.
It's like communication. It's irreversible.
That's it.
Once it's out there, then you got to deal with it.
Once it's out, you can't control it.
Yeah.
It goes where it goes.
It goes where it goes.
Yeah.
I wanted to circle back real quick to Michael's question, and based on something Marnese just said. And you guys tell me if I'm incorrect, because this is my understanding based on what I was taught, which is that, so what we have is, just as an example, so global warming is melting the polar ice caps, which is causing these different storm systems, which is why we're getting a greater number and stronger storms like Katrina, like what just happened in Texas, etc. And then as a result, the areas and the people that are most highly effective and then don't have the resources to build back are marginalized communities. So that's another way that the environment disproportionately affects marginalized people, people of color, etc., poor people, you know.
That's another way, Dan. I mean, there are several ways when you look at it that we're being affected. Now that's a way of lifestyle inconvenience that I would say. What we talked about prior to that was life and life limiting inconvenience. Now we're looking at lifestyle inconvenience, because now you're starting to look at the socio-economic aspect of environmental injustice. And when you look at the socio-economic life or aspect of environmental injustice, then you start looking at how our environment keeps us impoverished. What stressors, what factors are there that keep us impoverished? And again, we have to go back to the history of redlining. You look at the history of redlining, and I don't know how if you all would y'all like for me to talk about the history of redlining, because I don't want you to.
No,
I don't know how far y'all.
No,
go right ahead.
Man. Yeah.
Okay. So when you start,
it's definitely a topic Michael and I are both passionate about. I
we heard about it. Yes.
When you start looking at the history of redlining, and then you start seeing that there was these covenants that were put in place that kept us that institutionalized segregation within land use. Institutionalized segregation within land use. So you start seeing this institutionalized segregation within land use. You started seeing wherever white folk live, that was desired land. Right. Wherever other folk live, it was considered undesirable. For everybody and anything that was good, but anything that was bad, such as industry, such as these manufacturing plants and coal-fired or production plants. Let me put it that way. Production plants that are constantly polluting our communities. They allowed for those things to come in. In the northern part of Birmingham, there's like 11 communities right there in that northern part. They are completely surrounded. They call it North Birmingham, completely surrounded by polluting facilities. Mm-hmm. And have been for over 100 years. Will not move these people out of this community. Won't do anything to stop the pollution, and is still allowing other polluting facilities to come in. Wow. The government is doing this. Yeah. But the government is the same one that set this system up. Now, Marnese talked about how if a revolution happened, how are you going to grow something on your land? These folks been told that they can't grow anything on their land because anything on their property is poison.
Well,
what do you do with that?
Yeah, that's a good question.
You know what I mean? This is one of that community is one of the most impoverished communities in the city of Birmingham, if not the most impoverished community in the city of Birmingham. is one of the most undereducated communities in the city of Birmingham and one of the most dilapidated communities in the city of Birmingham.
Oh boy.
And yet and still they're being told that it's their fault that they're in that position in the first place. This is what environmental injustice looks like.
Now I know it.
When you start making these connections, you find out that it's the ones that do the least harm that suffer the most.
Yeah.
And it's both driven. It was the system is set up by injustice and driven by our greed. Our overconsumption drives this pollution, and all of us as a community have to take blame for that.
Yes, sir.
And so we talked about the policy pieces, and I'm sorry that I'm driving this a little bit, but we talked about the policy pieces, and again, I'm strong on policy. However, we also need to talk about practical pieces.
Yeah.
Because adaptation is extremely important topic for our EJ communities. Because the cavalry ain't gonna come for us. Hell, they ain't never came for us.
That's right.
So we don't need to look for the cavalry outside of us. So how do we scale up these community-led solutions? How do we scale them up so that we can get those national and help people on a national scale, or even a global scale? Because here's the bottom line. Here is what COVID taught me. COVID taught me that we can ill afford to live as if though we aren't community.
Well,
that's what COVID taught me. There's no way that you can live your life without considering that other person. None of our lives will last that way. It's the same thing with climate change, what Marnese was just alluding to. You can plant the pollution, but you can't contain it. The same effects that folk in Florida are feeling because of climate change are the same effects that folks in Maui are feeling because of climate change. The same sea level rise that folks are feeling over in Dubai, not Dubai, but Dubai. That's the one that's surrounded by water, right? The man-made one. I think that's Dubai. Well, all the rich people, rich people, right.
That's Dubai.
Yeah. The reason I don't know it is because I don't ever feel like I'll be able to make it that way. But if I do, I'll write something to let y'all know about it.
I don't think I knew it was man-made.
Yeah. No, they're in the middle of an oasis. It's like a desert.
Yeah, it's like a desert, and it's surrounded by water. They like man-made.
Exactly.
Yeah, but they're experiencing sea level rise, and so just like Miami and just like the Gulf Shores are experiencing sea level rise, and people are losing land, they are also losing land because they're experiencing sea level rise. You've got some islands that are no longer in existence where people had homes and lifestyles. Living their lives can no longer ever go back to the history of their homeland, not because they were taken from it, but because it was taken from them. So when we look at environmental injustice, when we look at climate change, we both have to look at policy, but we have to look at practical pieces as well. So one of the practical pieces that we have to look at is our consumption. Another practical piece that we look at is how do we live as community? Do we continue to live isolated amongst ourselves where we don't know our neighbors? The only thing we know is our social media partners, or do we actually physically get to know people? Do we find out how other people live it? And just because I got Reverend in my name, let me just go ahead and take personal privilege real quick and talk to my households of faith and say that you are the ones that should be driving this conversation, and you are the ones that should be leading in the efforts of bringing us back together as community, because that's what your job is. Now I get loud on that one because I'm talking to my own folk. That's our job. That's what you were called to do. You were called to be ambassadors for God and community.
Amen.
And we slipping on our job. And that's why our whole society is going to hell in a handbasket. Because we're slipping on our job. But we want God to bless us. But we can't bless nobody else. You got to be kidding me.
Watch out, preacher. Hold your text now.
What denomination are you, Reverend?
I'm UCC. I'm United Church of Christ.
Okay.
Yeah. We live around these parts.
See,
So-
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Marnese.
I'm back.
I'm sorry, I got on my soapbox.
No, that's what the show is for. See what you gotta say. Get it off your chest.
No, that was awesome, and I like practical because I just don't really like when we get so caught up in all these issues, multi-layer, multi-dimensional issues that we have in all of our communities, and we just talk and don't do anything. And then when we start to do anything, there's this mistrust. People get caught up on how you organize. Are you woke enough? And I get it, right? Because we have a lot of social movements that have proved that we have been infiltrated by our own people, right? But I think that's the main thing that Michael hinted to, that getting to know your neighbor, showing up, building trust. This pandemic, if it didn't show you that we need each other to survive, it also has shown or planted that seed of scarcity. Like, I don't want to be next to my next person because they may have the virus. And I feel that we need to get back to the old school practices. Now, with that being said, food and water, honestly, is like basically all we really need, right? But we have to start shifting our mindset to realizing that's all we really need. We're caught up on materialism, keeping up with the Joneses, and we're all a part of it. We all participated in it. We all perpetuated. When we get that STEMI check, we all know what we're gonna go do with it. No judgment, but I'm just saying. But we have to start preparing for these climate disasters because we don't know when the next storm is going to hit. We don't know when our time is. And be quite honest, I lived in Michigan, so that's up north. A lot of climate, when these issues happen, climate mitigation or migration is going to come up north. And so that brings issues of people moving here, people not being accepted because they're not from here. So it goes back to that basic practice of getting to know each other, being there for our fellow man and or woman or whatever you identify as. We kind of got to get past all these issues that divide us. Individualism is killing us. Yes.
I was going to just say, I held this for a while. I'm just going to interject for a hot second. Okay. Yeah. What's running rampant is this idea of rugged individualism, especially up north. It's all over Minnesota, and it's probably in Wisconsin and Iowa too. This thing, people are fascinated with the idea that they can make it by themselves. That if you ain't got yours, if you ain't got yours, you just don't have yours. You know, that's your problem. There's no such thing as your problem anymore. The reality is that the interconnectivity is what people have to see and understand. So I guess I just wanted to drop that in there and point out the term and whatnot. Go back. Go right back.
Yeah, and that's rooted in white supremacy culture, individualism. I didn't want to go there, but you have to name it.
Go ahead.
I'm like, reason why we can't get around because of the white supremacy culture. But now that I said it, go research it. Individualism, us being separate, Black men, Black women, kids against adults, All this has race other cultures against other culture. All this has been strategic.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, for all the listeners, you can undo this behavior. Okay. This is all a behavior pattern. Like I said, I'm not that old. So if I can undo some of these behaviors, we all perpetuate white supremacy culture, by the way.
Absolutely. We're born into it.
Exactly. Like it or not, for all you woke Black people out here, you have participated in it.
Okay? Yep, you got issues too.
I just wanted to say it.
Amen.
So I think with the environmental and climate movement, it really expands onto all these different intersectional issues like criminal justice, LGBTQI community, our elderly brothers and sisters, our youth. So this is an opportunity for everybody to be a part of a movement. This is not, it's not that you can't get involved in it. And also a practical step, we have to go back to those old school practices that I know most Black parents have taught us, because conservationism is not enough, because we have to really drive policy. But however, we have to start somewhere. Turn off those lights. Okay. We have to recycle, reuse, start minimalizing all the stuff that we have. We don't have to have a whole bunch of stuff, because it's going to end up in some landfill, which is going to cause a lot of contaminants, and people are going to get exposed to these environmental impacts. So you don't need a new outfit. I remember I had this dress on like a year ago, and I could still fit it I bought it back in 2009, and I didn't wear it since 2009. And somebody was like, "Oh my goodness, 10-year!" There was like this 10-year challenge, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can still wear that dress. You still got that dress?" Yeah, and I still look good in it too. And and so my thing is, I'm making that point is that keep your stuff and then donate it. Like, we don't have to keep buying into this capitalism system. I get it. Good. You want to go buy something out of your check because you earned it. But we need to rethink about how we spend our money. We need to be spending our money on land. Because, by the way, when these climate disasters happen, there's an opportunity for gentrification. It happened in New Orleans, and the white flight happened, where a lot of white people moved down to New Orleans, and the people who were originally, residents, they can't really afford to live there.
Right.
So they get moved out, or they can barely afford to live there. So, by the way, that's called environment gentrification.
Well,
so it's like, why wouldn't you not want to be a part of this movement? Because it affects your health, and it impacts your livelihood, and it impacts what you eat. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, what's happening at me?
I wanted to talk about one more practical piece, and that's being active in your community. One of the things, so let me say, being active in your community. I'm talking about doing like cleanup days, home improvement days. One of the things that we're doing with Alabama Interfaith Power and Light and the People's Justice Council is we're doing a program called We Rise, which is weatherizing every resident in the Southeast. And we're purposely and intentionally targeting communities of faith to get them involved in doing outreach or doing weatherization as an outreach ministry for their congregations. We want to help them to implement it, help them to get it set up, but we want them to actually reach out in their community and help some of these vulnerable households who have issues with their houses not being sealed, to get those houses sealed up. It doesn't cost a whole lot of money, just a little time to do it, and you're caring for your neighbor. Even if we came out of this pandemic, say that tomorrow COVID goes away, people can go back to work and everything is everything. Well, those who are sitting in vulnerable households, who live in vulnerable communities, are still paying upwards to 35% in excess on their energy bills. And so the energy bills, they may have subsidized rent. They may be paying $75 in rent, but they still paying $500 a month in their utility. And so the utilities are keeping them impoverished. And let's say even if not, they have a little bit more. Well, it's still, you're still spending between 18 to 25% of your income on utilities just to stay warm or to stay cool. That's insane. When it can be remedied just by having your houses, sealing up those holes in your houses. Communities of faith often have food pantries everywhere. I done seen so many people handing out food. I'm surprised ain't all of us sitting up here overweight. I know I carry mine, but I'm surprised all of us ain't looking the same. You know, round and sexy. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Round and sexy. I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna use it.
You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. But if we made weatherization just as sexy as we made food pantries,
well,
just imagine how we could help people in their communities and help people in their households. And that's long-term health. You can give them food and feed them a meal, but the utilities are the thing that's keeping them impoverished in the first place.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you take that same amount of time, seal their homes up, you give them income back into their houses. You don't have to buy them food anymore. They can buy their own.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and to expand on that, my first job out of college was a weatherization coordinator, educating people and getting their homes weatherized. Your utility bill is the most expensive bill that you have besides your rent. And I wanted to say that this is the new wave of jobs. And getting your house weatherized, making sure that your home is energy efficient, making sure that I'm sorry, I lost my thought. These are the new wave of jobs, by the way. Okay, so when we're thinking about moving away from these coal-fired power plants that past president said that coal was going to stay here, it's leaving. Okay, and transitioning from that to different clean forms of energy efficiency, wind, solar, things like that. Energy efficiency is most accessible. And it's, when I say accessible, it's reasonable to get your home weatherized. And there are state programs to help you get your home weatherized. If you're at the local level, your community action agencies who help you pay your utility bill if you fall behind, they also require you to get your home energy audit on your home. Now, this depends on the state that you're in. Now, this is very important because your utility bills, if you get your lights cut off in the dead of winter, which sometimes some states don't have utility protection or shut-off protection, it causes more issues. So if you have your lights cut off more than 5 days, I believe it was in the state of Iowa, that they're coming. Why do I know this? Because I'm a single mom, and so I'm an advocate for single moms. Like, look, if you got to have everything tight when you're a single mom. Otherwise, they gonna come get your babies, okay? And so when I was working at the NAACP, I remember a case in Iowa where this woman had her lights cut off because she couldn't afford her utility bill. And this is an environmental justice issue, climate issue. And her kids got taken out of her home, and they ended up in the system, but they also ended up into human trafficking. Because they gave the woman couldn't get her kids back. She was in foster home, and now her kids started to get trafficked. So when I say intersectionality, this is not just one issue. Okay. That's why I'm saying we have to think about the economics piece of this. If this woman couldn't get her lights cut off because she couldn't afford it, then this is where we need to focus on energy efficiency and weatherization. And this is the next job creation, especially if you're trying to own your own business. As a plug for those business entrepreneurs. Weatherization, energy efficiency. Stay away from solar. It's too expensive. Go that route or do wind energy. So,
real quick, can you just, for the people that don't know, can you clarify exactly what weatherization is and how that ends up helping your utility bills and therefore the environment?
Yeah, so over time, your home develops gaps and develops holes, basically, that allows for air to escape. And your utilities are driven by the heat and the cooling and down of your home, as well as your lights. And a lot of times your energy is going out the door because you're heating up the outside and cooling down the outside. Weatherization does sealing of your homes. It goes in and looks at and looks for those holes and seals up those gaps. A lot of times it's just some simple insulation and some caulking. It's not anything much more than that. Well, better yet, I'll go even simpler. It's just some caulking and some time. A lot of times, and so it's a simple fix. It's a simple fix. It's something that, again, can be a community project. It'll be a great project for communities of faith to get involved in. It shows that you care about your neighbor. But even more, for those, listen, if you got a free weekend on your hand, throw some caulk in that booger and get busy. I mean, that it'll help you in the long run. But all I'm saying is we've got to get involved in doing some of these practical pieces and scaling up these practical pieces. And one of the lowest hanging fruits is simply sealing your home up.
Yeah, and it also looks at the doors, the windows, making sure that your appliances are efficient.
Right, energy efficiency.
Energy efficient. Making sure that your if you have drafty doors, like I live in the historic district, and I know that I have air going out different places, and then also changing your what's it called? The air. Oh my goodness, that's slipping my mind. Never mind.
Air filter.
Yes, air filter. Air filter. All the time. I think making sure that your house is insulated. And this is just for people who really live in these old houses. So it's very useful to get your house weatherized so you won't have high bills.
Yes.
Diane asked, was weatherization assistance programs in many cities realistically helpful? Yes and no.
Right.
One, not all cities have them.
Right.
I understand that. There are some states that don't even have them in any cities. But those cities that do have them, they can be useful. And then, at the same time, you may want to go further. Most of them don't actually sell up homes. They do change out light bulbs, and they will come and do a energy efficiency test on it, but that's a basic test. But yeah, so I would say go further and get your own energy auditor.
Yeah, you may have, if it's a good weatherization program, you may have a fee of like $50, but it depends on the program. Or you may end up paying between, it depends on the program. You have the low income that you may qualify for not paying anything. Then you have like $50 to $100 if you're a moderate income. Then, the upper middle class, you may have to come out some money, some real money, a lot of money. So
I was a little surprised to hear you say that you didn't feel like solar was worth it in relationship to to wind. Is that just that there's a higher upfront cost, or?
Well, I say solar is more expensive, and then you have different states who won't allow you to have what is it called, to produce, like, because you generate, if you have the battery that stores all the energy from the solar. Some states don't allow for you to get the money back from that storage. So to me, I feel like it's worthless. Yeah, it's saving that about the environmental impact of the actual panel after so many years. But I like solar. However, I think it's too expensive and it's not reachable to low income and communities of color. Right. But it also, for a policy part, it takes so much to have a legislator who will let you have a good net metering policy where you're able to benefit from those energy storage and get money pretty much off your utility bill and or a credit. Because, you know, some of these utility bills who own the grid, they don't want you to be able to disconnect from the grid because that's $1 billion company. You know, you have these utility CEOs who make millions of dollars, and why would they let you disconnect from the grid? You're going to hurt their bottom line.
Right.
But I go even further than that, and say that, you know, if you don't have your house sealed up, it doesn't matter.
Right.
If you've got weatherization, I mean, if you got solar or not, because you're still throwing good money to bad.
Yeah, it's still leaking.
Yeah, you've got to start there first. Let's not try to jump the solar. Let's deal with the practical pieces on the ground. What you can, you know, the more attainable pieces now. Because again, if you skip a step, then you really, what's the point? Absolutely. You just got a cool new setup. That's it.
Cool new setup.
I think it was Marnese. I'm not sure which one of you brought up that it also, once again, it comes down to local politics, because they want, even if you have your house is sealed, you have the solar panels, but they still won't allow you to disconnect from the grid because it cuts into their profits. And it just seems to be a reoccurring theme in every way that everything is connected, is the way that it affects with local politics. And I know that Reverend Michael, you know, when we were setting up, you brought up HR 1, and I know you want to talk about that. So I just wanted to make sure I brought that back up again before I forgot about it.
Yeah. I alluded to it earlier. Again, man, right now, and I don't have the exact number. My dear brother gave it to me yesterday, and I forgot it that quick. But I want to say it's something like 277 different voter suppression laws have been introduced since Biden has been declared president, or has had since the inauguration. Excuse me. Since the inauguration. And so HR 1 is the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. And what HR 1 does is give us better access to voting. It basically defeats all of that legislation that they're trying to push now. Iowa has already put in law this voter suppression law. But you've got other states throughout our nation that are also entertaining these laws. A lot of attention has been given over to Georgia because Georgia is the hot spot right now. But the reality is many of our states in the South especially, but throughout our lands, are under attack right now. And our voices are under attack right now. And they're trying to silence our voices. So it's important, because all of this conversation that we're having right now means absolutely nothing if we don't get to vote. Again, we cannot expect for a government who has instituted and instilled in our society injustice. We can't expect for them to all of a sudden start making just decisions on our behalf.
Right.
Only time that we've seen justice is when we've pushed for justice. And if we don't push for justice with this one, we might as well go back into the Jim Crow days.
Yep.
We might as well go back. And the oligarchy will finally have finished doing its job.
So when is that legislation before Congress? Is it making its way through Congress now?
Oh, it's there now.
So would this be a scenario where, because one of the things that I normally ask near the end of the show that we have already covered at this point is, okay, so what can we do? And one of the things that keeps coming up is writing, calling, and emailing our elected officials. So would this be something where, people that are listening should be writing and calling their senators and Congress people about and encouraging them?
Absolutely write and call your congressmen and your senators. But I'm going to go a step further. Put just as much passion behind this HR1 as you did with Black Lives Matter.
Yep.
Y'all was just on the spot for a hot minute during the summer, and I almost thought that things might change. But y'all got tired. Now you've gotten your rest. Get back on the job and put just as much passion behind this as you did with Black Lives Matter.
Yes, sir.
Make this just as popular, just as celebrity driven as you did with Black Lives Matter. And hopefully, just hopefully, they'll hear us now.
HR1.
At least on this one.
Yeah.
At least on this one. Because this one is that important. Even within our environmental community. If we don't defeat this, if we don't make this stick, that whole conversation is over.
Yeah. Well,
the only conversation we need to have from then on is adaptation. How we gonna get through this? I'm serious. I am. Listen, I don't tend to say I'm a prophet or none of this stuff, but I'm gonna be a prophet on this one. If we don't get this together and we don't get this voting stuff down pat and ensure that all voices are able to vote, our black asses that rescued y'all white asses last time ain't gonna be able to do it no more.
Right.
Yep.
They gonna silence us. It's that important. If you care about climate and you know that these weather patterns that we've had are completely out of sorts and we are out of whack in our climate, if you don't get us our voice to vote, I don't care how much you think it's out of whack. You might as well stay at home and anchor down because it ain't going to get no better.
Man, you thought them. Yep.
You will have the corporate ambassadors back in office again, and corporations don't care anything about people. They only care about profit. Period. They don't care nothing about a planet. They only care about profit. And what you have is corporate ambassadors that are making rules for the people. The people better stand up and start using their voice, or we lose it forever.
Reverend Michael, do you miss preaching on Sunday? Because you've been doing a lot of preaching tonight.
You know what? This is the only way I know how to talk, man, because I'm just Southern. I'm just Southern, man, and that's just the way I know how to talk. I don't know how to talk no bit.
Is this the same way you talk on the way through the Popeyes drive-through? The same way?
Brother, that's the way I talk all the time.
Give me
the two-piece
and a biscuit.
Because the biscuit come automatically.
You know,
and are you going to shortchange me on the honey packets? Y'all always try to.
Hey,
Oh Lord.
I'm
And,
saying,
and actually, no, I don't miss preaching because I do it all the time. Man.
Apparently, yes.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
do
all
it
right.
all the time.
Preach on.
hey, no one's complaining. It just tickled me.
Yeah.
So let me ask a question to either one of you, because again, with everything being interconnected, is it just me, or has the environment not really been a hot button politically? Like, I can't remember the last time since, I'll say, the first Obama term when it really seemed like they were making a big deal out of environmental issues in political campaigns. It seemed like we just kind of stopped caring as part of the national discourse, which seemed crazy to me when we have the impacts of climate change getting closer and closer and closer. And I mean, is that just my perception, or is that true? Is it kind of taking a backseat to other issues?
Well, when you had a white supremacist in office who don't believe in climate change, and his whole administration were climate deniers, it was definitely going to take a back seat, not to us environmental activists, no, because we had to strategize on how we were going to. It was like us playing defense. No, we didn't take a back seat. But on the grand scheme of things, racial issues took, which is also an environmental issue, right? Environmental racism took a backseat because this is what we were dealing with at the time. All these racial injustices that we've been dealing with, but it's, of course, crazy, of course, brought it to the forefront. And I have to say, I thank him for it, because I can't stand closet racists. Y'all the worst. I mean,
just let it out.
I'm like, bro, just tell me who you are. If you're gonna put a cross out in the front yard, at least I know. I ain't got time for you progressives out here lying, calling the police on me for walking my kids down the street. No, they are the worst. So to your point, it didn't take a backseat for us environmental activists and people who've been experiencing it. But when you have somebody on Twitter, and the media plays a big part in everything we see. Trump on the news again talking about this, and he's eliminating all these different environmental rules that's helping us, and then eliminating our us being a part of the big Paris Agreement. It's kind of like, what's next?
Sure. And as long as you're playing defense,
yeah,
you can't stay on. That's what it is. They try to keep you hopping. Try to divert your attention, give you something else to worry about.
Right.
Throw you off your game.
I mean, that's why they introduced 270 plus bills to try to do voter suppression, to throw you off. Yeah, make you play defense. So that way you trying to stop that. You don't have time to be progressive and pass the necessary laws.
Yeah, it's harder to score when you're playing defense.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the stuff the Biden administration has proposed, or possibly has done already? I don't know what executive orders they've put in place yet. Does it look like they're going to move us in the right direction?
Again, I'll go back to what I said before. We can't expect an unjust system to do us justly. We've got to push. I don't care. I don't care what Pharaoh is sitting in Pharaoh's seat.
Well,
Pharaoh's still Pharaoh. I didn't even care if Pharaoh looked like me.
Facts.
Pharaoh still stood up in Flint and drank a glass of water and told them people that their water was all right.
I wasn't gonna go there.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just saying.
Go ahead.
I'm simply saying, you can't expect an unjust system to treat you justly. We've got to push. It doesn't matter who. You've got to push. They've started off good, and we've got allies. Me and Marnese we actually know people that work in the Biden administration. I have their phone numbers, can call them up. So we know there's some good people in that administration.
Yes.
However, the administration as a whole are still corporate ambassadors.
Yep.
And you still got to check them, and you still got to push against that. Because the reality is, even as we look at climate change, and what I'm concerned about is that as we're looking at climate change and trying to treat climate change, we're still looking at solutions that impact our communities negatively. But yet and still, you said that you're standing for environmental justice. Come on now.
Right.
Come on, man. I ain't even hooped that part out.
Man, see,
that's all right. I had just a little while ago, I saw that footage of Obama drinking. He's gonna get a glass of water out here. Dan and I even talked about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went and called my friends in Flint to see what their perspective was.
What was the purpose of that demonstration? I was like, what is he trying to say?
Well, what you find out is that the corporation that was behind, the corporation that endorsed him or gave him campaign money was the same ones that pushed him to drink that water.
Well, there you go.
And so again, you're looking at corporate ambassadors. It doesn't matter who's sitting in that seat. It's still a corporate ambassador. Mm-hmm. America is a corporation.
Yes. Amen.
America is a corporation. Corporations don't care anything about people or planet. They simply care about profit.
Mm-hmm.
Listen at the rhetoric. Jobs, 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 jobs. Ain't a damn word been mentioned about healing.
Oh, reparations. Like, what are they going to do about people in Flint?
But you care, but you speaking about you standing for black folk and want to get them something. Man, go ahead on.
Yeah.
No, we got to still take whatever we gonna get, boss. Ain't nothing changed.
Preacher, you're making my big toe shoot up in my boot now. I'm trying to be peaceful these days.
You pulling out this old country, preacher. You better leave me alone.
Listen at the rhetoric, man. You speaking to my soul now.
Next time I'll bring the organ if you got the drums, Michael. We can go to church for real.
Michael will have to hurt some people's feelings.
Oh no.
Yeah.
It seemed like you was about to say something a minute ago, Marnese.
I'm sorry, I was, but he went to church again. How am I supposed to come after that?
Yeah, exactly. Preacher keeps grandstanding and shutting everybody up.
May the Lord watch. Okay, now your turn.
Yeah. Oh Lord.
Yeah. To another point, Obama could have rerouted that pipeline, the Dakota Access pipeline. He could have stopped that right before he left office, and he didn't do that.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, man. Dang. Obama. I had to think differently about President Obama. And that's the whole sensationalism when we have the symbolism of having a black person or brown person in office. All skin folk ain't kin folk. And so that's why, to Michael's point, that we have to turn out in these local elections. Right now is more important than the one, like I said, 2024. We shouldn't even care about the presidential election. These local ones are the ones that matter the most.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to stop glorifying symbolism. Like, yes, it's great to see somebody be the first to do this and be the first to do that, but they gonna sell out our people. It's no.
Yeah, and I got a real beef with all sorts of just pejorative and performative actions being taken by corporations. See, that's the problem, is once we start to taste a little bit of liberation, it becomes a profit business. You know, they take advantage. It's a good look. Now we look like we're in alignment with the people. You know, so as white consciousness wakes up, it's a snatch and grab. There's profits to be made, and I listen. I've lived my life looking at Uncle Ben on that box. Aunt Jemima, don't change nothing because I already know how you feel. It's not necessary. That's not doing nothing for me.
Right.
You know.
Well, you look at all these statues that were snatched down. All these corporations that said they were standing with Black lives. All these organizations that said, we standing with Black lives.
Yeah.
Where they at now when HR1 is sitting up here and our voice is being assaulted through a vote? Where are they now?
Somewhere counting their money.
Exactly.
You know?
That's where they're at.
I mean, even in Georgia, all this sensationalism around Georgia and this voter suppression. But you got some of the biggest corporations. Delta's right there. You got Coca-Cola right there. You've got Waffle House right there. You've got all these corporations that's got loot. Why aren't they speaking up right now about this whole voting issue? But you was just talking about diversity and you was just talking about Black Lives Matter and all this stuff. Where you at now?
They're waiting for the next, the next grab.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's more profits for them in keeping the people that keep their taxes low in office than there is in getting a few more revenue dollars from woke people.
And it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal to look like you're helping.
Hold on now, Dan. You being messy because I thought you were just talking about the movement when you described that. It's a whole lot. It's a whole lot of us keeping folks in bondage.
That's facts.
Because of profits instead of helping folks.
Yes, sir.
And you got a whole. And I'm just gonna go and say it. I love my big greens. I love my folk. But you got a whole lot of big greens that are in business right now. And by big greens, we mean the big environmental organizations. Like the Sierra Club and Environmental Defense Fund and National Wildlife Federation, some of those.
Gotcha.
But you got a lot of those organizations that aren't making systemic changes, aren't calling for systemic changes. And you know why? Because people have jobs.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And if we had true systemic change, you wouldn't have a job anymore. What does success look like for me? Look like me finding something else to do.
Yeah, job security.
Because I don't need to do this no more.
Job security is
that's what success look like.
Absolutely.
So why would they give money to these Black and brown environmental and climate justice groups who've been doing this work the right way for a very long time? Why would they give that money? Why would Bezos, who own Amazon, right, give that money to Black and brown communities who, like I said, have been doing this work right, and they actually solved the issue? They got everybody out of a job, right?
That's how you infiltrate a system. That's how you snuff out a movement. You get a stronghold, and you come in the name of allyship.
Mm-hmm. Oh. You said the key word, allyship.
Okay. Yes.
You said the word allyship.
All right.
And for you allies who thinking allies is what Black and brown communities need, we don't need that. We need accomplices. Okay.
We need
accomplices, not allies. Yes.
Ally is saying that, oh my gosh, I have on my Black Lives Matter shirt and I showed up to the rally. I'm an ally. That's what that is. No. We don't need for you to do that. And then you take a picture. I was at the rally. No.
Yeah, that's what I think a lot of these millionaires and these corporations are doing. It's performative. It's pejorative. It's not. It ain't got nothing to do with how they feel. Because money usually don't have anything to do with how you feel. It's just, well, unless you're greedy, then you feel it. Yeah, your money, your feelings are attached to your money. But yes, that's what it is. It's that's how you. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't help that I just watched Judas and the Black Messiah. You send somebody in there in the name of I'm down with you. And, you don't know what that spells for the movement.
Right. And it's always one of us. But, when you said raising white people's consciousness, I believe Dr. King really spoke to people's heart. But the thing is, I was watching this documentary, White Supremacy.
And they killed it.
Right. Right. And once you start speaking to people's heart, it humanizes white people, right? But then you start messing with their money. And then, like you said, they killed him.
They killed him.
Yeah.
And so it's like for white people to experience, and some white people have stood up for us, you know, and died for us, you know. Some have done. I'm not gonna say that some haven't.
Yes.
However, when white people are humanized, it makes them feel how Black people are feeling. I don't think white people nowadays are ready to do that, right? Because they may stand up, but at the end of the day, they're not going to want to go up against their own pocketbooks. Like Black and brown people know how to survive. Yeah. We know how to adapt.
Yes, there's a limit to allyship.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect segue. When you were talking about, you know, where the money goes, if either of you have places either that you work with or just simply that you recommend, that if we have people that are watching or listening that they want to donate, can you, Reverend Michael and Marnese, put them in the comments and I'll put them up on the screen?
Oh yeah.
It can be your own. It can be your own stuff. It can be somebody else's stuff. Just if
Go ahead, Dan.
Okay, I was gonna say it can be, and if somebody has $1 they want to give to a cause that you would personally advocate for in the field of what are we calling the big picture here with environmental justice, I guess. And I'll start putting those on the screen.
Okay.
And so we don't have to wrap up at 9, but we usually do. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that anybody here wants to touch on before we're done?
I want to talk about the Grammys.
Okay, go ahead, Michael.
No, I wasn't even being serious.
I have. So
I want to. Oh, I'm sorry.
Ahead. Go ahead.
Dan. I do want to talk about something because there's no way in the world that I'm going to sit back and have the great Michael here on this call with me, knowing that he sat next to Prince and played next to Prince and not hear something. I know, y'all ain't paying me for this. So you might well go ahead and give me 1 or 2 stories. And let me let me feel famous for a minute anyway.
Give me a topic and I'll see if I can riff on it.
Oh man, give me one of them good road trips ones. One of them good road trip stories that will leave me salivating.
Oh boy, on the road it was very.
Well, hold on. Time.
Is your wife listening, Michael?
Hold on, time.
No, she right.
Time. Look. When you start stuttering, I know it's got to get juicy. Hold on. Let me get settled in the seat a little bit better.
No. I was just trying to figure out how to say it. I mean, people are always looking for the juicy stories, but the reality is that you're talking about a man who loved playing music more than anything. Mm-hmm. So whatever we did, we play a 2.5-hour show at Wembley Arena, we go shower and get back down to the hotel lobby because we're going somewhere else to play for 3 more hours.
Oh wow!
That's how it was. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of room for all that craziness, not for us anyway. And whatever I might know or might have heard, I can't really get into all of that. About what he might have been doing, but I mean, he's Prince. You know what he was selling, so you know what was coming his direction.
Man.
But more than anything, it was. I mean, it just the people who would come around and want to sit in. I mean, plus my first concert at Wembley Arena, it was like Madonna was there. George Michael was in the front row, jumping up and down like a little girl. Paul McCartney was there. All these stars were out. I mean, that's the thing about Prince was that everybody in the industry. I mean, he not only had legions of fans, but a lot of other artists admired him and they wanted to get close to the source. You know, they were always coming around. One of those nights at Wembley, I was in Prince's dressing room talking about something with him, and Mick Jagger just came walking in. Hello, hello, you know, and Prince put his curling iron down. It was over. Mick, hey, what's going on, man? And I'm just looking like, all right, wow, is this how it is? Just legends just coming in the dressing room, you know, unannounced. And you know, I will say this: that after the show, we had a party at the Hammersmith Palais, and I was talking to these two young ladies, and Mick walked by with his little crew and said, "Right, wicked set, Michael." You know, Mick played wingman for seconds, and the complete expression on their face changed for the rest of the evening. You know, so
now I'm acting like I'm the one interviewing.
Go right
ahead.
I was listening to some stories about Rick James, and I didn't realize that Rick James saw Prince as competition. I know he got him started touring with him and whatnot.
Yeah,
but I didn't know he saw him as competition. Did Prince see Rick James as competition?
I think so. I mean, especially if you're opening for the guy every night.
Yeah,
you gotta look at it like I'm the underdog. I got something to prove here.
Okay.
You know, and I mean, I don't think it was the rivalry that comes with being in the business. I think that Prince admired Rick James and what he managed to accomplish. Somebody, I think it might have been Morris Hayes, he knew Leno, who would drum with Rick James for years. And he had a video cassette he brought Prince to show that he thought was hilarious. It was like back when Ronald Reagan was in office. And Rick James was just clowning Ronald Reagan during the whole show. And, you know, we were cracking up. But then I looked in Prince's face, and Prince was looking like, wow, this is really tragic. And when we turned it off, he was like, that was really sad for me to watch. Rick James was really, you know, he really was somebody I looked up to. You know, and then to see him, you know, just cracked out, you know, talking about smacking Ronald Reagan. Put your hands together like he just smacking the, you know, out of Ronald Reagan. You know, that was somebody Prince, you know.
Yeah.
He really had a reverence for. So the competition was healthy, you know. But I think he looked at Rick like, that's what I want to do. I mean, Rick had the Mary Jane Girls. Prince had Vanity Six. You know, I mean, he patterned a lot of that. There are similarities. Rick James showed Prince what was possible. And one thing about Prince was if you showed him what's possible, he was going to the nth degree with it. You know?
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Thank you for answering that. And matter of fact, Dan, you ain't even got to worry about sending me that check. That was good enough. That was good enough.
See, I was about to pay my tithe after all the sermons you preached today.
Pay me tonight.
Marnese, is there anything we didn't cover that you wanted to talk about?
I actually really wanted to hear the Prince stories as well. It's really awesome to be, because I love music. And somebody asked me Michael Jackson or Prince the other day. I said, we're not going to play these games tonight. We're not going to do that. But I absolutely love Prince. I love Mike too. So it's awesome to be next to or on a panel with someone who played with him. Yeah.
Okay, well, know that they were, you know, the press played that whole rivalry up. They really were friends. I used to ask Prince, I'm like, I said, has Michael Jackson ever been here? I was in Prince's office. I asked him, has Michael been here? He said, oh yeah. You know, he used to come and we play one-on-one, you know, we play basketball down in the sound stage.
Okay.
You know, he liked to play basketball. So he and Prince they'd ball and then they'd, you know, have a little snack. He was like, it's kind of like talking to a teenager, like somebody who's like, you know, 12 or 13, maybe even, you know, it's like Janet too. Like he found hanging out with those people. Like they were in this youthful place, like this sort of innocence to a certain degree, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And we'd be rehearsing sometimes, and then somebody would tell Prince, we have, they come in and they tell Prince, you know, whisper in his ear, and he'd say, I'll be right back. And he'd go. I remember this. And we kept rehearsing for a minute, and then he called us to his office. And Michael Jackson used to send Prince video cassettes of he owned Sly Stone's catalog, and he knew Prince was way into Sly. And also he'd send like unreleased Jackson 5 concerts, all on video cassette to Paisley. It just come in a brown envelope or manila, like a packing envelope, and just said MJJ Music on it, and like a zip code. And we'd go up to Prince's office, and we were watching going back to Indiana concert with the Jackson 5, like straight off the reel, with the numbers at the bottom, and Portrait of a Legend with Sly Stone, all these rare concerts, and we just tripping out, So that was Michael Jackson's way of like not just showing Prince what he got, but like, I know you'll appreciate this,
right? By honoring them,
Prince would really dig this, so he just have somebody send it,
That's happening, then, man.
Yeah, I know he was like, when he died, like it was really had a real strong effect on Prince. Like Prince really, he felt that,
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for telling us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm at your disposal, Marnese and Reverend Michael. Inbox me, Facebook me.
I appreciate it.
I'm around. I got stories to tell. I can't tell them all right here on the network.
Well, that's why we got to have some private conversations.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Get us a good plate of ribs and some greens and sit down and just chop it up.
I don't mind. I
have to say, I have fantasies of when the world reopens, if we have like a MUSiPOLiTiX get together with all of our guests and things at bunkers one night. One night when you and Sonny are playing, then we all get to hang out and talk afterwards. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but that sure would be, that's a bucket list thing for me.
That might have to be an afternoon thing with no playing music. Roast the pig in the back lot.
Dan, let me acknowledge your father and thank you for honoring me and allowing me to be with you in this moment and in this time. And I hope and pray that we said something that honored him.
Absolutely.
And made you feel good.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Before I forget, if people who are watching and listening want to find you guys on social media, where do they go?
I'm on Facebook. And my name, Instagram, Twitter. I think that's all I do. I don't know what else they got me signed up to be honest with you.
I think that's all I do.
Yeah, we do have. We got a YouTube channel. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't know, Dan.
Well,
I don't handle that part of my life.
Gotcha.
Seek it out, Dan. You super
Oh,
smooth.
I mean, I just wanted to make I know I've got him on Facebook, Instagram, etc. I just wanted to see and Marnese, like specifically where you prefer we send people. Some people don't want everybody going to Facebook.
Oh, sure.
Some people don't,
I got you. Yeah, I'm an open book. Wherever I am is where I am. You find me, and we good. Just know if you're looking for me to be the Pope, you got the wrong man.
Yeah,
I'm not him. I'm not, and I don't want to be. I won't even pretend.
Amen.
I'm Michael, and Michael is all I can give you.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Michael, I think. Oh
no, you go ahead.
No, Michael, I think that's why we really get along, because I always tell people I'm Marnese and this is what you get. I don't switch. I don't switch it up for anybody.
Nope.
In my appointed position at the state of Michigan, I told the governor, like, you sure? Or the head of the Eagle Department of Energy. I'm like, you sure you want me to do this? Because I'm gonna let you know, and it may not come out right.
Yeah, but you know what? There's an integrity to telling the truth where other people might back down.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, you might turn some people off, but they'll know one thing, that they can trust you for sound advice. They can trust you to be honest and forthright, and that's valuable because a lot of people people phone it. A lot of people just phone it. So you know what? We need more people like you, and I know that's the pot calling the kettle black because I'm the same way. What you see is what you get. I'm not gonna mince words for nobody. I might be a little more polite depending on my relationship with you, but I'm gonna tell you how it is. I have to.
Yeah, but I'm on all social media outlets except those Snapchats and TikTok and all that. I'll leave that for the babies.
We're too old for that.
I'll do it, but I'm not about to have an account. But Marnese Kris Jackson, I'm usually the only one out here, but like Michael, I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
And if you want to have a conversation, we can have a conversation about what I said. But I said what I said. That's what it's gonna be. Like,
all right.
By
the way, your hair is looking lovely this evening. I was like, she came on the scene with her hair bouncing and behaving and whatnot.
Man, I thought you were talking to me.
No,
you know what? Oh my goodness!
No, Michael, your skull is looking top notch tonight. I gotta say, that little reflection is doing wonders for you.
Oh my goodness! Well, thank you for that. But I don't really look at him like he was.
No, from the other angle, I saw the curls, the rings. Yeah, there it is. I'm like, that girl, she whooped her do up for us. We appreciate that. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right.
Well,
I want to say thank you again, Dan and Michael, and paying homage to your father. I just want to make sure that I get that in. I hope, he's smiling down at us.
Absolutely. I know that he is. So does anybody here want to talk about anything they have coming up? Anything that, Michael's obviously, Dr. Michael talked about the single that he just put out with the Minneapolis Music Committee.
Yeah, I'm still promoting that, so that's what I'm on for now.
Anybody else have anything that's going on that you want to refer people to between now and Earth Day?
Yeah, March 24th. March 24th, which is next week, I believe, next Wednesday. We'll be having a viewing of Uniontown, which is a film about environmental justice happening to a city here in Alabama. And we're also on the 22nd, which is Earth Day, I'll be doing our first Let's Talk with Rev show like yours. And we'll be having Dr. Shalonda Baker, who's the Deputy Director of Energy Justice for the Biden administration.
Okay.
She'll be our first guest. Wow.
I'll definitely have to tune in for that. What about you, Michael? You think you're going to tune in for that?
I don't know what I'm going to be around for, man. I'm just happy that it's happening.
Yeah. So I am working several local elections here in my hometown of Madison, Wisconsin, working to elect several progressive Black women in city council, as well as helping with our state superintendent race. If anybody who's out there is looking to volunteer, you do not have to live in state. You can phone bank remotely. You can text remotely. Hit me up if you're interested in helping. That's the main thing I have going on. And remember, this is the first part. The second part of this is April 20th, which is the Tuesday before Earth Day. Earth Day being my father's favorite holiday. We're going to have both of these esteemed guests back, as well as a few other people to the panel. And I'm really glad that this is a two-parter, because there were some questions I had that I wanted to ask as this was going, but it would have been a whole nother thing, and we already had several. And I didn't want to derail it. So I hope I remember those next time, because I'm really, I really enjoyed everything everybody brought to the table tonight. Thank you so much to our guests. Thank you to my co-host, Michael Bland. You want to pray us out, Reverend?
He went off. Maybe he's praying by himself now. I don't know.
That could be.
Lord, these people.
Well, somebody said something in the private chat. Let me just. Oh, he just said he needed to step away. Okay. No worries. So we will. He's praying us out in spirit. And anybody else have anything want to say before we end the broadcast?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dan.
Thank you, Marnese, and both Michaels. We will see you guys in a month. Thanks for supporting us tonight. You can continue to share this broadcast after the fact. It'll be available on all major podcasting platforms as well. Thanks again, everyone. See you next month.
All right.